relationships. But what if the key to a strong partnership isn't grand gestures, but remembering the little things? Today, we're diving into a story that might make you rethink how you approach your own relationships.
Oh, that's an interesting perspective. What's the story we're exploring today?
Well, it all starts with a couple, Rob and Jenny, who are on their way to meet Jenny's parents. Now, we've all been there, right? The nerves, the pressure to make a good impression. But here's where things get interesting. Jenny reminds Rob not to forget the chocolates they're supposed to bring as a gift.
Bringing a gift to meet the parents. That's pretty standard etiquette. So I'm guessing Rob remembered the chocolates.
Well, that's where you'd be wrong. Jenny glances into the back of the car and realizes no chocolates. Can you imagine the tension in that car? She says, and I quote, "I don't believe it." Now, we've all been on both sides of this situation, haven't we? Either we're the one who forgot something important, or we're the one dealing with someone else's forgetfulness.
Oh no, that's a tough spot to be in. How did Rob respond to this?
He admitted he left the chocolates on the desk. But here's where it gets really interesting. Jenny's response wasn't just about the chocolates. She asks Rob, "Why don't you ever tidy?" Now, that's quite a leap, isn't it? We've gone from forgotten chocolates to questioning Rob's overall tidiness habits.
Wow, that escalated quickly. It seems like there might be some underlying issues here. You know, a study by the University of Washington found that couples who argue about small things like household chores are more likely to divorce than those who argue about bigger issues like finances or in-laws.
That's fascinating, and it really puts this situation into perspective, doesn't it? It's not just about the chocolates or even the tidiness. It's about what these things represent in the relationship. You know, experts say that these small acts of thoughtfulness or lack thereof can be indicators of larger patterns in a relationship.
That makes a lot of sense. So, do you think Jenny's frustration is justified? Or is she overreacting to a simple mistake?
Well, that's the million-dollar question, isn't it? On one hand, forgetting chocolates isn't the end of the world. But on the other hand, it's about what the chocolates represent: thoughtfulness, attention to detail, making a good impression on her parents. You know, a survey by Psychology Today found that 67% of people believe that small gestures are more important in maintaining a relationship than grand romantic gestures.
That's a pretty significant statistic. It really highlights how these small things can add up over time. But I'm curious, how do you think the added pressure of meeting the parents plays into this situation?
Oh, that's a great point. Meeting the parents is already a high-stress situation. A study by the Journal of Social and Personal Relationships found that 40% of people experience significant anxiety when meeting their partner's parents for the first time. So we've got this already stressful situation, and then you add in the forgotten chocolates. It's like throwing gasoline on a fire.
Right. And I imagine that stress could be amplifying both of their reactions. Jenny might be feeling extra embarrassed about showing up empty-handed, and Rob might be feeling even more guilty about forgetting.
Exactly. And you know what? This whole situation reminds me of something called the fundamental attribution error in psychology. It's this tendency we have to attribute other people's actions to their character, but our own actions to external circumstances. So Jenny might be thinking, Rob forgot the chocolates because he's disorganized and doesn't care, while Rob might be thinking, I forgot the chocolates because I was so nervous about meeting her parents.
That's a really interesting concept. It certainly puts a new spin on their interaction. So, what do you think Rob and Jenny could do to prevent situations like this in the future?
Well, there are a few strategies they could try. For one, they could start using shared digital reminders or a shared to-do list app. That way, they're both responsible for remembering important tasks, not just one person. You know, a study by the American Psychological Association found that couples who share responsibilities equally report higher levels of relationship satisfaction.
That's a great idea. It takes some of the pressure off and makes it a team effort. What else could they do?
Another approach could be establishing some routines around preparing for important events. Maybe the night before, they could go through a checklist together to make sure they have everything they need. This could include things like gifts, directions, or anything else that's important for the occasion. And you know what? This could actually be a bonding experience for them.
I like that idea. It's proactive and helps prevent last-minute panic. But what about the bigger issue of tidiness that Jenny brought up? That seems like it might require a more comprehensive approach.
You're absolutely right. That's a trickier one because it involves changing habits, which is never easy. They might need to have a calm, open conversation about their expectations around organization and tidiness. Maybe they could come up with a system that works for both of them, like designated areas for clutter or specific times for tidying up together. A study in the Journal of Family Psychology found that couples who actively work on resolving their differences report higher levels of relationship satisfaction.
That makes a lot of sense. And it's important to remember that people have different standards and styles when it comes to organization. What feels tidy to one person might feel chaotic to another.
Exactly. It's all about finding that middle ground. And you know what? This whole situation with Rob and Jenny is a great reminder of how important communication is in relationships. A study by the Gottman Institute found that couples who regularly discuss their expectations and frustrations are more likely to stay together long term.
That's really interesting. So, as we wrap up, what do you think are the key takeaways from Rob and Jenny's story?
Well, I think there are a few important lessons here. First, communication is key in any relationship. If something is bothering you, find a good time to discuss it calmly. Don't wait until you're in a high-stress situation to bring up ongoing issues. Second, try to be understanding and forgiving of your partner's mistakes. We all make them. And finally, remember to keep things in perspective, especially in stressful situations. Ask yourself, will this matter in a year from now?
Those are great points. I'd add that it's also important to work together as a team to find solutions to recurring problems. Whether it's using shared reminders or creating new routines, tackling issues together can strengthen your relationship.
Absolutely. And let's not forget the importance of a sense of humor. Being able to laugh at life's little mishaps can go a long way in maintaining a happy, healthy relationship. Sometimes the ability to find humor in a stressful situation can be the thing that gets you through it.
Couldn't agree more. And remember, if you're ever heading to meet the parents, double check for those chocolates before you leave the house. But if you do forget, don't panic. It's not the end of the world, and who knows, it might just become a funny story you tell for years to come.
Well, that brings us to the end of today's episode. We hope this discussion has given our listeners some food for thought about relationships, communication, and keeping things in perspective. Remember, every couple faces challenges, but it's how you handle them together that really matters. Until next time, keep listening and keep growing. And maybe keep some emergency chocolates in your glove compartment just in case.